Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'll be talking about UX design process. Usually during interviews, you would hear questions like, what is your design process? Can you walk us through your design process? And why hiring managers do that is because they want to be sure you understand design processes. They want to be sure that you're not just a designer that does UI alone. You understand the place of research, you understand the place of personas and scenarios and all of that. So straight, I'll go into what is UX design process. UX design process refers to that systematic approach that designers take to create user-centered experiences for digital products or services. It involves understanding your users' needs, defining their problems, generating ideas, prototyping solutions, and testing them to refine the design. So everything you do to get a design ready to make it good for your user is what UX design process focuses on. And the first thing is usually research and analysis. As a UX designer, you need to be good at research. You need to understand the importance of research in your design, because the design is not for you, it is for the user. It is not personal experience, it is user experience. So you need to identify your target audience, understand their characteristics, behavior, and their needs. So you can do that through interviews, surveys, or observations. Another thing you need to research about is competitors. You need to do a competitive analysis. You need to find out people that produce similar products, people that have similar services. Then you gain insights and identify the opportunities you need to actually harness for improvement on your own product. The third thing is define the project goals and objective based on the gathered information. So when you're done with your research, be able to put these things together and come up with goals for your own project. The next thing is developing a user persona or scenarios. So what that means is you're trying to design a fictional representation of your users. So for example, you probably interviewed, say, 50 people. You don't have to list all the results or show all of the results, but you need to represent your users. You need to use one persona to represent them. It's fictional. You don't need to use an actual name. You can use any picture, any iStock picture you get or anything. Just make sure you're representing your users. And if it's an app for old people, you need an image of an old person. You need the profile of an old person. You need to include the age there and include the goal, the pain point of that person, the lifestyle, and all of that. So during your research, you would have gathered all of this information, and all you need is just maybe 2 or 3 personas for your project. So you can tell people, this is the kind of person I'm designing for, this is the age range, this is the age bracket of people I'm designing for. Secondly, you develop a user scenario or use case to envision how users will interact with your product, identifying the key tasks and goals. So this is very important. As a UX designer, you don't just go designing, you need to get all of these things right. Next thing you would work on is your information architecture. You're going to have to organize how the information on your product will be arranged. It has to be in a logical and reasonable way for users to be able to understand their way around it. I did a little bit of explanation here. And for example, you move from your home page, you can go to clothing, search, accessories, cart, and location. So what this means is, from home page, people should be able to figure out their way around your website or your app or whatever you're designing without having issues. So when I'm looking for clothes, I know I will find it in the clothing menu, whether I include clothing button or clothing menu, whatever it is. But if I'm looking for accessories, I know where to come to. If I'm trying to check out, I know where to come to. So that is all about information architecture. Try to create sitemaps that help to outline the hierarchy and relationship between different pages. Next thing to do is wireframing and prototyping. So once all of this is done, the next thing you'll be doing is to develop a lo-fi wireframe. And before now, lo-fi wireframes are done on papers. I think people still do it on paper. Use your pen and paper. Draw up something simple, something that would represent what you're about to design. You don't need to go straight to start adding colors and buttons and assets. You can start with drawing a simple diagram, a simple plain image. I'll show you what that looks like. So this here is in lo-fi wireframe. It's just wires, just lines. So this is the first stage. You don't just go to start adding images and adding buttons and adding icons and all of that. You start with something this simple. If you work with large companies or maybe small startups that understand the importance of UX design, they would always require you to do a low-fi or mid-fi design before you start getting colors and all of that on the design. So it is very important you know that this is important. And why lo-fi is important is because it helps us to be able to work faster. Aside working faster, you can actually re-examine user flow and gather feedbacks from there. So you can get feedbacks from people on why this button should not be here. I think we should place it here. This should not be here. This is too close. It will be really painful if you have done all of this work and you are told it is not acceptable. It is not welcome. You want to change something. It will be very annoying. But you'll be looking at the time you spent working on this. But once it is this you're working on and you are asked to make adjustment, it will not be hard for you to just move one or two rectangles. So that's the importance of wireframing. Another thing is wireframing is all about iterating and refining what you have gathered. So what you've gathered from your feedbacks and all of that, try to put them together and come up with a design. And you can actually get usability testing from your wireframe. You can let people test what you have designed and let them give you their feedback on what they think and all that. The next part will be creating interactive prototype. I think I should move to the next part of the design. So this is a low-fi, this is mid-fi, this is a hi-fi wireframe. This point, you can only see lines and wireframes and wires all around. The next one, you can actually see some details. You can see, okay, this is saying logo will be here. This is an image. This is saying it's a button that is here, play and my list. Down here, you can see that it is clearly a nav bar that is down here with menu. So this is the final one, the hi-fi. So it is when this is approved, you move to this. And you see that the difference is not too much. You can see that it is the architecture here that helps us come up with this. Next thing you would do is getting the visual design done. So this is where you apply all of the colors, you apply your typography, the perfect typography. You get all of this done, give it a very beautiful feeling, give it aesthetic appeal so that when people look at it, it is attractive. Because design is not just about solving problems, it's also about adding beauty to those products you're designing. So ensure consistency and visual hierarchy to guide users' attention and make the interface visually pleasing and engaging. So this is where the design comes in, the UI part of UX comes in. So for most people, they feel UX design is all about, let's just design, let's design. But the truth is, it is just, designing is a fraction of the processes of UX design. So this is an example of a visual design I worked on this week. As you can see, I started with low-fi wireframe, went to mid-fi, then this is what the hi-fi looked like. Then when you prototype this, the next thing you need to do is give it out for usability testing. Share with friends, share the prototype link with people, let them go through it. You need to monitor how and evaluate how their feedbacks are when they use this product. Like what are the challenges they have using the app? Do they have tough times finding a button, finding a particular portion of the design or particular screen and all that? So conduct usability tests with real users to gather feedback. Then observe how the users interact with your product. Find out their pain points, their area of confusions, and make improvements based on the findings. So UX design is an iterative process. You just keep going back, you keep adjusting, you keep trying to make things better. You don't just move and end it like that. You keep going back to your drawing board to make sure that things are properly done. So usability testing helps you to test your product with real users and gather the feedback to improve more on it. Then the next thing you would do is to do iteration and refinement. Yes, whatever you gather from your feedback, you'll be able to actually apply them to improve your designs. Be able to iterate on the design, repeat the usability test until the design meets the user satisfaction goals. So you keep doing that until you are sure that this is ready to be launched. So the next thing you do is implementation and development. This is where you collaborate with developers and you provide them with all of the assets, the style guide, documentation that they need to implement the design accurately. And I always tell my colleagues that it's important to maintain close relationship with your developers, so that you can rub minds together and analyze what needs to be worked on, what cannot be achieved, what alternative do we have if we need to change anything, what can we change? If this button, if this effect, if this animation is not achievable, what do we do? Next, you'll be doing evaluation and monitoring. So you continuously monitor and evaluate the design. After its launch, you gather the feedback from user interaction. So you go to Play Store and you check out, okay, what are people saying about this design? What are people finding it hard to actually enjoy the features on the app? Is my app really enjoyable? Is it useful? Is it usable? So whatever it is you do, you use an analytic tool to actually measure the performance and success of the design. And finally, you make a data-driven decision to further improve anything. That is why every day you get to see updates of different apps on Play Store, on App Store. That's because they have done their research, they've gathered feedbacks, and they realize that more things need to be added, some things need to be adjusted, some things need to be removed. And that's it. So the flow is like this. From research, you move to wireframe, to mock-up, to prototype development, to test and user feedback. Now, when that is done, it doesn't mean that is the end of the project. You still go back to research. So when you get your feedback from here, you go back to your drawing board to get your research done properly. Then you move again to getting wireframe or whatever adjustment you've done, get the mock-up done, get the prototype done, then move to development. So it's an infinite process. It's continuous. It doesn't end. Then finally, I'd like to say this. Usually when you start working on a project, you feel like, okay, it's going to be a plan, execute, and succeed plan. But the truth is, you're going to face a lot of things along the way. There are points where you will feel like crying. There are points where you're burnt out. There are points where you would want to try again and all that. So I'm just encouraging you that when you are doing your UX design process, you don't give up or you don't skip a step. You keep doing it. And when you are faced with this question during interview, just know that they're asking you what are the processes, how do you get an app ready if you're given a brief to work on. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye.